Thanks for coming to Tech Tuesday. My name is Tom Levine, Cornerstone's resident tech guru. Today, as you can tell by the background, we'll be covering the differences between laptops and tablets, as well as Chromebooks and two-in-ones, which are not on the screen. Just a few bookkeeping options to go through first. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to type them up and send them in the chat or in the questions tab of the GoToMeeting. I'll go ahead and answer those at the very end of the presentation. We also have a few other things to cover, such as Cornerstone's cruise going on. We actually are doing a sales competition, so if you sell enough, you will qualify. The cruise is going to be May 3rd to 10th, and you can register by going onto Cornerstone's website. Under Value and Rewards, click Rewards Trip, and you'll get to this screen. One other thing to note is we do actually have our Resource Center fully functioning now. If you go under Resources on our website and click the Resources Center option, you can click under 2019 Webinar Series, and then from there you can go to Tech Tuesday, the Group Corner, the Individual Corner, whichever Cornerstone webinar you want to review. If you click on Tech Tuesday, you'll also be able to choose through some of the other webinar recordings. These will link you directly to our YouTube page, as well as register for the next webinar that's available. Once we have Tech Tuesday posted, the next presentation will be up. But on to the main body of what we're doing today, laptops and tablets. Today, like I mentioned before, we'll be covering the difference between the two and why you'd choose one over another. Because it's sort of within the same realm, I'll also be covering what Chromebooks are and what they can offer you, as well as the newcomer to the market, two-in-ones, as well as which one you should pick for what you're trying to do. The major difference is really in portability. Between a laptop and a tablet, there's a lot of different reasons you'd choose differently. A laptop does provide easier data entry and more usable programs and websites, as well as access to the full Office suite, easy data transfer between devices, and it's better to do large presentations based on a laptop. As well as with tablets being great for basic computing functions, access to the internet. It's perfect for watching videos, showing pictures, sharing things with friends, light internet access, like I said, Facebook, YouTube. Also, most now come equipped with cameras, so it's easy to take pictures, and all that's very user-friendly by using a touchscreen. Both of these do have benefits, honestly. The tablet is really nice if you're trying to show someone something one-on-one as well, where a laptop is more oriented to single-person use. Or if you hook it up to a projector, it's easy to do a large presentation. That's another real key difference between them. But mostly, if I'm choosing a laptop over a tablet, it's for heavier computing and easier connection for other devices. Getting a bit more in-depth about laptops' advantages, other than the easier data entry that is provided by a full keyboard, you also have more programs that you're able to access. There are other versions of these programs typically out for tablets, but they're less powerful. It's capable of some seriously heavy computing tasks on the go. You could have Excel open in a background with 10 tabs open in your internet browser, and your computer probably won't have many issues, if any, if you're using a laptop. You also have greater storage space than a tablet or any other mobile type of computing typically offers, as well as better security software because you've got more power to run said software. It's also much easier to connect a laptop to another device. Normally, if you're trying to connect a USB into a tablet, you can't. You might have to use some sort of converter, or you just use your laptop or desktop. That's honestly one of the biggest advantages a laptop has. It can connect to a lot of other devices a lot more quickly, as well as just the greater versatility is what makes it, in my opinion, a better choice. But you'll also be paying more for it. It'll be between $400 and $2,000 for a laptop typically, depending on what you want to put into it. We covered a little bit of that in the last Tech Tuesday on computers, Apple versus PC. But when I talk about software, I'm really just talking about usable programs. And when I'm talking about hardware, I'm talking about the full physical applications and physical pieces of a computer. So the more powerful hardware you run, the heavier it is, the more electricity it consumes. But that's where laptops get all their power from. Their hardware is more powerful than a tablet's. Laptop options. If you're looking in today's market, it's easy to start at a baseline with the Acer Aspire. But these are just general brand ideas to give you a general glimpse of what you'll be getting for your money. So with the Aspire, the starting cost is about $600, but you get 256 gigabytes of SSD memory. SSD actually stands for solid state drive. And we didn't cover this as much in the last presentation, but it's just a difference in the type of memory storage. Solid state will be faster than traditional memory, and most people are switching over anyways because it's an easier system to use and it's less data loss. On the Aspire, you'll also get Windows 10, CD drive, 2 USB ports, VGA and HDMI outs for video, as well as a 15-hour battery life. And I know that's very quick, but let's walk through what each of these means. CD-ROM drive means it can run CDs. 2 USB ports means you can connect in a wireless mouse if you so choose, and a different keyboard if you want, or you can have a mouse and then a free USB drive to take up USBs or connect in a printer or something else. VGA and HDMI video outs mean that you can hook your laptop up to a big screen TV or a different type of monitor very easily. And the 15-hour battery life is pretty phenomenal, honestly, for a laptop computer. Then we also have the MacBook Pro, which is a different option. It has slightly different RAM settings, but it starts at the higher end of our price points, really, at $1,673. You get 2 terabytes of that solid state memory, which means you're getting a lot more memory than the 256 gigabytes. Tera is 1 up from giga on the scale here, so it takes 1,000 gigabytes in order to get 1 terabyte. Or actually, I apologize, probably a little more than that. But you also get 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports. The Thunderbolt 3 is the name of the port, by the way, and you have 4 of them on the MacBook Pro. This is the MacBook's version of USB, so it's just easy connection across Mac devices. And you also have 10 hours of battery life. Meanwhile, you also have the Dell or the PC moderate option, which starts at about 1,000. You get 128 gigabytes of that solid state memory, or 128, I apologize. And honestly, that 256 is about all what you'll need. The 2 terabytes, in my opinion, is a bit of overkill, but if you're intending on using your laptop for maybe 10 plus years, that might be a good thing. Additionally, it runs Windows 10, 2 USB ports, which is really all you need. It also has an SD card port, so you can maybe use a camera SD card and put it in there, or also a phone SD card. Would be those micro USB cards. And also you have up to 13 hours of battery life on the Dell XPS 13. In my presentation notes for this, by the way, which will be available to you by email, just email me and I'll send them out. I have links to all these computers if you want to compare. Next, we're covering tablets, and tablets are a little bit different. They're very easy to access the internet with. You can just touch them and open up an internet browser. It's good for your basic computing needs and basic app use. It's very mobile friendly for content. If you've ever seen those mobile friendly versions, banners on people's websites, that's what they're talking about. It's very great for mobile friendly content, not so much for full website access. It's very lightweight. It has long battery life, normally over 10 hours, and you've also got a $50 to $600 price range, so it's a lot more palatable than trying to buy a laptop. There are some basic options here. The Fire HD8 tablet is a good one to start with if you're just trying to get into tablets. It's got an 8-inch display and 10 hours of battery life. and that's just with the base package, by the way, for the Fire 8. It also has a front and rear camera and the Alexa assistant through Amazon. It has no 4G access, however, which is a big difference as well. Most laptops nowadays will not actually have access to the internet straight. You've got to use Wi-Fi or some other sort of access, but tablets tend to come packaged with some sort of mobile internet access now. A good example of that's the Samsung Galaxy Tab, which is our next option, starting at $193.99, which is still, a good $200 less than our starting laptop option. You get a slightly larger display in the Fire, 20-hour battery life instead of a 10-hour, and a front and rear camera, as well as a 4G access. That's, I believe, through either Verizon or AT&T right now. The other tablet option would be the iPad if you're still going with Apple. It starts on the high end of the tablet starting price at $429, but it has a slightly larger display than the Tab. It has a less full battery life. However, it does have HD cameras instead of regular. It has Touch ID, your Siri assistant, all the normal Apple stuff that you're used to, and 4G access as well. So if you are hard set on using Macs and Apple products, don't worry, you're not being left out of the tablet game. But like I said before, tablets are really useful for small things. It can't run as much at one time as a PC can. Normally with a PC, you'd be able to, like I said, have 10 different tabs open, be running a bunch of different programs at once. Not so with a tablet. You're really going to want to limit yourself to maybe 2 or 3 different programs at once, switching back and forth. And even then at 3, you're kind of butting up against the limits of these kinds of devices, depending on what you get, typically. The other downside to this is memory, which is why it's not really as included. The 128 gigabyte memory of the Apple iPad is honestly the most you're going to find as far as normal tablets go. Normally you'll find maybe 16 gigabytes of storage, which means that if you're not going through and deleting files, typically you've got good use out of a tablet for maybe 5 years. If you actually actively manage what you have on your tablet and know what you're doing with it, can last indefinitely. You've just got to remember that most of your storage space isn't going to be on the tablet. It's going to be on a connected computer. Tablets really are not standalone devices. They're typically something you take around with you, used to display information, but not something you'd actually create a presentation on. Typically, you'd maybe save a presentation as a PDF, move it over to your tablet, and then if you're one-on-one with a client, you'd be swiping through and showing them the ropes of that. Another downside to tablets, if you're enrolling someone, is it's not as easy to do data entry. On a laptop with full keyboard, you can just tab right through a lot of forms. But with tablets, you have to physically touch each single box and enter everything using a virtual keyboard, which is on the tablet. This is kind of like if you're using your smartphone and you're using your thumb to swipe through the chat options. It's not as easy for form filling. But that's where the next 2 options become very valuable. If you're not happy with the limitations of tablets, but you also don't want to be lugging around a laptop, that's where a Chromebook comes in. Chromebooks are pretty new devices, along with the next option we'll be displaying 2-in-1s, but they kind of accomplish the same goal, which is have a easy-to-use laptop that is very lightweight, accesses very basic things, and can do everything on the go. It uses Chrome OS, which is a different type of operating system or software, I guess, than most tablets or smartphones, as well as not the kind of thing that you would typically use on a laptop, like a full operating system. Chrome OS is different because it's streamlined to open everything in Google Chrome. I mean everything. Without access to internet because of that, that means that you're likely just going to be lugging around dead weight unless you have internet access. It's pretty, it does have some local storage, but a lot of what Chromebooks are built to do is connect to Google Drive, which uses cloud storage, which is kind of on the internet. So if you're not getting constant internet access, a Chromebook kind of becomes limited. You're also pretty limited to any sort of Google app, anything on the Google Drive. They do have their own versions, however, of Office, like Google Sheets is the alternative to Excel. And as long as you have internet access, a Chromebook will work perfectly for you. You can actually store small presentations and things on Chromebooks, so it might be a good idea, honestly, for a small office or on-the-go travel to just use a Chromebook with a maybe some sort of hotspot tandem to get that internet access. It's also pretty cheap too, between $150 and $1,000. So typically you'll spend less than a laptop or about the same amount as a tablet. There are a few different book options out there, but the typical starting point that I like to use is the Asus Chromebook C223 or C223. It's probably actually the best value on the market for what a Chromebook is, starting at $229. It's got 32 gigabytes of flash storage, which just means you're basically looking around as much storage as a large thumb drive. As well, sorry about that, as the 17.25 millimeter thickness. A lot of the price points that you see here as it increases means your notebook is becoming thinner and you're getting more storage out of it. Battery life is kind of negotiable. You also have 3 USB ports, which is very, very useful. You can use those to transfer presentations back and forth and other things. I love USB ports as options, but now with email, you can also just transfer files that way. And it has up to 10 hours of battery life. Next, moving on, we have the HP Chromebook 360 14. It's a pretty high price jump, but you get a lot more memory. You're doubling the flash storage that you have, as well as going thinner, and you lose 2 USB slots, but you also gain an SD port for picture editing. And you also have up to 14 hours of battery life on the Chromebook for the HP variant. Then the most expensive option being the Google Pixelbook Slate, which kind of gets into our next option, which is the 2-in-1s. It has 128 gigabytes of solid-state drive storage. It also has 10.3 millimeter thickness, so it's a lot thinner than the Chromebook and the Asus, although you're arguing millimeters at this point. It also has the built-in Google Assistant and up to 10 hours of battery life. So that's the Google Assistant being kind of their version of Siri and Alexa. But unfortunately, it does have no USB ports. It just has a charge cable. So if you're looking to transfer information back and forth, you're stuck with email or some other sort of connector. Which brings us to 2-in-1s, which in my mind is really what you should get if you were looking at the Pixelbook. It's got a lot more power than a typical Chromebook, but not as much as a laptop. Typically a laptop, like I said, maybe can run a lot of intensive programs at once. A 2-in-1 isn't really built for that. It can run heavy programs, but normally only 1 or 2 at once. And typically this runs on a full Windows operating system. You also have the option of a keyboard. Most models, like the Surface 2, which really made them popular, have keyboards that can either detach or fold back completely and touchscreens, so you can use them like tablets. They run on Windows OS, like I mentioned, and normally they'll cost you between $2,000 and $200 and $1,000, making the price point fairly comparable to tablets, honestly. Personally, I think these options are going to become a lot more expanded, just because they have more processing power than a Chromebook and a normal tablet, but you can also use it just like a tablet for face-to-face conversation. The 2019 Acer Switch 10.1-inch touchscreen is a great starting point for switching into this kind of 2-in-1 system. It's got 64 gigabytes of solid-state drive memory, local, and 4 gigabytes of RAM. It also has 1 USB or charge port, so you can still have the USB system, and it also has 10.1 inches of screen and 5 hours of battery life. That means that it can handle switching between the tablet and the full PC, but you don't really have as much memory as you're really looking for. That's the trade-off. The next price point, which is really probably the best value for what you're getting, is the HP Pavilion 360. That starts at 443.94 and has a 1 terabyte mechanical drive, not a solid state. But you have a lot more memory. It also makes the computer a little bit heavier. You've got 4 gigs of RAM, so it's very comparable speed to the Acer Switch, and it has a lot of different ports available. You've got the HDMI, SD card, USB port, and USB-C, which is the new USB port, with a 15.6-inch screen and 7 hours of battery life. This really ends more toward the laptop side of the laptop tablet debate, but it's a very good computer if you're looking for an all-in-one. Additionally, there's the Microsoft Surface Pro 5. It's 12.3 inches, so you're sacrificing some screen. It also has less memory than the Pavilion, but like I said, switched it to a solid state, so you're saving on weight. You've also got 13.5 hours of battery life compared to the 7 hours on the HP Pavilion, a detachable keyboard instead of just a fold back, and a 12.3-inch screen, like I said. Personally, the best value you see here is probably the HP Pavilion, but if you're looking for a 2-in-1 device, that's where I'd settle. Like I said, each of these 4 options has their benefits, mainly price point. For a laptop, you're going to get a lot more data processing, a lot better security, and it's going to be easier to edit and create large presentations. But you're looking between a $400 to $2,000 price range. Next up, we have the tablet, which is $50 to $600, long-lasting, uses apps primarily, not a lot of different switching around between applications, but it's great for one-on-one presentations, and it's fairly cost-effective. Next up, we've got the Chromebook at $150 to $1,000. Can do some light data processing, has access to online data, and for storage, which kind of delimits you from the localized storage setting, and also needs constant web access, really, to be fully powered. That's the main trade-off of a Chromebook. And lastly, we have the 2-in-1s. It's great for offline work. You can easily connect other devices. It's got moderate data processing capabilities, so it's able to run maybe 2 or 3 heavy pressed apps, and it's between 200 and 1,000. Overall, if you're looking for something that'll function perfectly for all walks of life, it's all about trade-offs. If you're going to be running something more computing intensive, I'd tend to recommend a laptop. If you're just going to be sitting down with clients one-on-one and using a tablet in conjunction with some sort of desktop, recommend a tablet or a small sort of like smartphone or something like that. A Chromebook will give you access to a little bit more data processing, but limits you to being online. And the 2-in-1s take away that online necessity, but have a higher price point and typically will also be able to function just about the same with heavy programs as the Chromebook. So it's a real bit of a toss-up, honestly. My recommendation is choose what you feel most comfortable with. Personally, I'm happy on laptops and 2-in-1s, but maybe for you the best thing might be a tablet, just if you use a lot of apps and are pretty happy with just using something like a smartphone. Tablet's a great option for low cost. If you want to try and expand and kind of work off of something a little bit lighter and always have access to the web, a Chromebook might be the better option. It really depends on your own personal preferences. I will go back and see what kind of questions we have now. But if you have any questions that you don't want to post in the chat or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My email address is tlevine@crnstone.com, which is TLEVINE @crnstone.com. And I did actually do quite a bit of research for this as well. So if you're looking for articles and trying to decide on a device to get, I'd be happy to give you a point of reference as well. So without further ado, it looks like we don't have any questions posted. So I will be online here for another few minutes. Feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.